subjects, but I don't think she was.
Are Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum still married?
No.
It appears a few weeks ago. Oh, this is from 2014.
I don't know why I knew that so quickly, but I do know that.
I loved them as a
play the
couple.
piano? No.
He was always talking about chaos theory, and she got tired of it.
Yeah, but Chaos Theory was a club.
She said, "Life better find a way to get the garbage out every week."
He'd say, "Hey, you want pancakes today?" And he'd say, instead of talking about whether you could make pancakes, you should have thought about whether you should. And she said, "That's it. That's my
Life
best."
better find a way to pay the alimony, Jeff. Gina Davis doesn't talk anything like that.
All the things I say about him, references to Jurassic Park, and
your imitation was actually not bad of Jeff Goldblum. That was
worse.
I was a longtime fan of Mr. Goldblum and his work.
Yeah, you're a 10-speed brown shoe guy.
Damn straight.
I'm trying to think of the. No, I keep forgetting he's in Jurassic Park because I remember most in To Live and Die in L.A.
I don't even know if I've seen that. I always think of him as the Jurassic Park guy and the Fly guy, even though he's done lots of other things.
I just think of him as brown shoe.
He was also
he was 10-speed.
He was also unbearably pretentious in The Life Aquatic.
He was good in The Fly.
The Fly is it was on like a, I don't know, some cable channel when I was in a hotel room recently, and I was like, yeah, I haven't seen this in a while. Pretty disturbing.
Very. Yeah.
You know, like I knew I remember the story sort of, but just kind of like kind of gory details and very dark.
You mean where he arm wrestles that guy in the bar? Oh.
And just the whole kind of transformation.
When he's spitting on the donut and then eating the donut, and yeah, that's something else. But he was great in Thor Ragnarok. I liked him in Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. That was good.
Oh, God.
He's just good. That. He's kind of the same and everything, but I'm okay.
Yeah, it's because when you hire him, you're hiring Jeff Goldblum. You want him to be him.
I'm down with it.
It's it's.
I just love our initials. It's like TM, Lane, Scott.
It actually,
you will not be confused.
Actually, if you weren't paying attention, it looks like a trademark. Like Lane Scott is the name of the production.
Yeah, Lane Scott.
Yeah.
Lane Scott sounds pretty good. That's like a actor from old westerns.
Yeah,
starring Lane Scott.
Lane Scott and his best.
That was Lash LaRue. His name was Lash LaRue.
Yeah, because you got Tom's little TM at the end. That's good.
Ding.
A Lane Scott production. TM.
No, I was looking at this earlier. I think, well, this will keep us in our lane. Get it? Because
it's rubbing off, Tom. It's rubbing off.
I love Lane jokes. I love them. It's not like something that like offends me or anything. But yes, I've heard them all.
Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. I'm in there.
I can't help it.
Hey, Sarah lives down the lane. That was a grade school thing where I was like, that's not even like funny.
Merritt the carrot.
Oh.
Wait, what the what?
Dotty potty.
Merritt the parrot.
All I got was
those
Roger
are the two words that we know rhyme with your last name, so we will call you them.
And Roger Rabbit. That's my other one.
Peeping Tom, which I prefer Rabbit, the term voyeur.
Yeah.
You didn't get like Roger Dodger or
Yeah, from people who are over 40.
Roger, do you still have me selected? Because everyone's saying they can only see me and not.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Sarah, say something.
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
Switched for me.
Yeah, what Roger does affects the outgoing stream. It doesn't affect our own personal views.
Interesting.
Yep.
Let me see if I just.
Then how would you know, Tom?
Because the chat room told me.
Oh, because the chat room. Yeah. Well, thank goodness for them.
They're good at that, telling things.
Yeah. Quality assurance.
It's job one.
It is.
I feel like slowly all of the power in my home will just shut down, and I'll just sit here in the dark, candle lit.
Hello? Hello?
That could be good.
100-foot Ethernet cable. No use without the
podcast basics. By candlelight. That could be kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Daily Tech News Show After Dark.
It's like the Quiet Storm.
Right.
It's so quiet about a storm anyway? Usually they're pretty noisy.
No, that's the whole point of the phrase, Roger. You just explained why the phrase exists.
Is there any, I mean, I'm just spitballing, but like, just thinking of like fun stuff we could do for labs.
Yeah.
That would be one-off or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, is there any, besides kind of the voyeuristic thing, is there any benefit that anybody would get from like watching one of us put together headlines or...
Let's talk about this after the show. I like this. I like where you're headed with this.
All right, cool. Oh, sorry,
right.
1:30.
Yep.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Hello, all you beautiful people. The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by you. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com. And we thank you for your support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline 2.0, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from I think I finally got the right food for the cat in Utah, Scott Johnson. Hi.
You had a problem with your cat?
He wasn't eating. I think the food was giving him the runs. So we got
that.
And there's nothing better than a cat with the runs. I'm telling you right now. So
I'll tell you what's
Love
better than
that.
a cat with the runs.
Love it.
Our producer, Roger Chang. Quite a bit better.
High praise.
It's because I forgot the February, isn't it?
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
You
I
didn't
only
have
passively aggressively put a lot of exclamation points after it in the rundown.
yeah, might be all caps and everything.
Let's start. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, no, I took Imodium 80, so we should be all right.
Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
In response to Qualcomm raising its offer to buy NXP Semiconductor, Broadcom is lowering its offer to buy Qualcomm. Hope you can keep up here. From $121 billion to $117 billion. Wow. What nice shaving off of the price. Qualcomm has declined Broadcom's offer. We've talked about this quite a bit on the show already. But Broadcom has nominated members to Qualcomm's board who will be voted on at a shareholder meeting on March 6th.
No means no, Broadcom.
Yeah.
Well, unless it doesn't.
Unless it doesn't. Shadow, the game streaming service mentioned on this show quite a bit, actually, from France. It's France's company called Blade, is launching in California in its first U.S. market. The service gives you access to a virtual Windows PC that you can use to run Steam on or whatever you want. It's basically just a virtual computer. Promises low latency. Blade has apps for Mac, Windows, and Android with iOS coming soon. The service is going to cost you between $35 and $50 a month. I am excited to see whether this is any good or not.
Verge said their tests were buggy, and a French listener backed that up in an email to us. So we'll see. We'll see. AT&T announced that it will begin mobile 5G service in parts of Atlanta, Waco, Texas, and Dallas, Texas. This year, you'll get 5G service in those three places, with 9 more cities to be announced in the coming months. However, we're not sure what you're going to use to access the service because most of the devices of the few that will support 5G aren't coming out until 2019.
In an effort to combat bots, Twitter has banned developers from using systems that simultaneously post identical or substantially similar tweets from multiple accounts at once. Twitter also appears to have suspended thousands of accounts for being bots.
Good.
Maybe that's why my follower count went down.
I'm fine with that.
Now I don't feel so personally dissed.
I don't mind being less popular with bots.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Well, it's like anytime you lose more, I mean, unless you said something like that's really going to be controversial online, anytime, kind of like a number above 100, shows up, it's like, it's a bot killing session.
Let's talk a little more about the mineral cobalt, Scott.
All right. I like the mineral cobalt. It's fine. Oh,
Lovely blue.
you mean because I'm next? Here you go.
Yes, that was a toss to your next story.
To be fair, we've never done this before, so.
Bloomberg's sources say Apple is in talks to purchase. That's right. Cobalt. Not the mineral, but anyway, we'll get to that.
Yes, the mineral.
I mean the mineral. That's really what I mean. Cobalt directly from miners in order to avoid a shortage of the ingredient necessary to make lithium-ion batteries. Gosh, I can't imagine what they'd need those for. An expected boom in electric cars could cause a shortage in cobalt. Supposedly, Apple wants to secure several thousand metric tons of cobalt a year for 5 years or more. South Korean oil refinery SK Innovation recently agreed to buy all of Perth's I don't know how you say that last name. Scony? I guess that's Scony. Mine cobalt for nickel for up to 13 years.
Dang.
Cobalt and nickel. They're locking up all the cobalt and nickel coming from Scony Mine in Perth, Australia for 13 years, which is a problem because the rest of the world's cobalt mostly comes from Congo. Congo has been in disarray for a long time. There's a dictatorship there. There's strife. The civil war is brewing. And that is where a lot of the child labor created minerals come from, which means if you want to have conflict free, like Apple does, you need to be very careful about who you buy your cobalt from. So this is going to be a problem for a lot of companies because it takes a little bit of cobalt to make a lithium-ion battery for a phone. It takes a lot more. I think something on the order of 1,000 times more to make the lithium-ion battery for an electric car.
You always told me that the future would be about water wars. Now you're telling me it's cobalt wars and we should get ready.
Yeah, why can't it be both?
Let's have both.
We've got a shortage of everything. Okay, if you think Ubers are too expensive, you have another option. Because the company launched a cheaper ride-hailing service called Uber Pool Express. It's similar to Uber Pool, and that's where you're sharing rides with other people for a little bit of a discount. But you're heading in the right direction, but to smooth out the route, Express will require you to walk up to 2 blocks for your pickups. It's kind of, it's getting closer to public transportation every day. The option is available in Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Denver, and will expand to more cities on Thursday.
Yeah, I made the joke on the morning stream this morning that it's like buses for Uber. Because everybody always says it's like Uber for something else. But yeah, this really is sort of a midway between ride hailing and a bus service. But the routes aren't fixed. They're always different. So I guess that's the difference.
I just wonder how many of these things are going to be 7-passenger, 8-passenger SUVs or vans, because it doesn't seem like you're going to take, as a driver of this service, it doesn't seem like you take as much advantage of what you're going to get for the lower prices without having higher capacity. So I just don't expect to see a bunch of little sedans doing this.
I don't mind the up to 2 blocks. I mean, yeah, sometimes I've got luggage or whatever, and most of the time that would not be super inconvenient. I've taken Uber Pools before, and yeah, it's, hey, if you want to save some money, it's fine. But it really depends on who you're sharing the car with. You can kind of ignore anybody or be friendly and talk to them, but it does change the experience. You're aware of someone else being in the car and where they're going and the whole thing. So, I don't know. Some people love Uber Pool. I try not to use it that much. That's just because I'm, weird with others.
And I guess even if you can only have 3 in your car at a time, you're always dropping one off and then another one may be added to the end of your route. So even a sedan might work, Scott. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're like me, I feel like Sarah and I are on the same page here. I don't like people. So I don't want to sit next to a bunch of people. It's just the way it is. I would rather be in the back seat of somebody's nice Honda Accord and pay a little extra for it than be all jammed into a big van. Not
right.
Well, when you're really made of money like you are, that's an option.
Of the pools I've taken, and it's probably, I can count them on one hand. There was only one where I was like, I don't like these people in this pool with me. It gave me a funny feeling. But ever since then, I'm like, you got to be near people.
And Sarah shouted, "Everyone out of the pool.
Everybody out."
Yesterday, we talked a bit about preparing for a world where video can be convincingly faked using some AI tools. Later yesterday, a report titled "The Malicious Use of Artificial Intelligence, Forecasting, Prevention, and Mitigation" was published by more than 24 experts from institutes including the Future of Humanity Institute, the Center for the Study of Existential Risk, and Elon Musk's nonprofit OpenAI. They all got together on this paper. Co-author Miles Brundage, he's from the Future of Humanity Institute, told The Verge he sees the paper as a call to action. And the paper makes 5 recommendations to combat future problems. So one of the things we mentioned yesterday was the really important thing is that we take action now to mitigate these threats before they become a problem. This paper says here are 5 things you need to do. AI researchers should acknowledge how their work can be used maliciously right from the get-go. Don't deny it. Policymakers need to learn from technical experts about those threats, so acknowledge them so that we can figure out what they are. Teach policymakers about them. The AI world needs to learn from cybersecurity experts how best to protect its systems. So tell us what the threats are, inform the policymakers how they work, and then start working with the experts to shut them down. Ethical frameworks for AI need to be developed and followed. So once you've figured out how to combat them, do it. And finally, more people need to be involved in these discussions, not just scientists and policymakers, but also ethicists, businesses, and the general public, so we all get more well-informed about what the risks are and how to stop them.
I don't know a single ethicist.
There's your problem.
Exactly. It's like, I would really like to bounce a lot of this stuff off of somebody who is a certified ethicist.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound ridiculous if you haven't seen the show, but if you want to brush up on moral philosophy and ethics, watch NBC's The Good Place.
That's the Kristen Bell.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is basically, one of the characters is an ethical philosopher, a moral philosopher, and it's pretty much entirely about ethics.
Yeah, the entire scope of that show, or at least it feels like it's all riding on that. Like that. Yeah. All like hypothetical questions about ethics and about morals and about good and about wrong. And
they bring principles from my philosophy classes in college into the show as elements of humor. It's kind of amazing.
Pretty fascinating. I'm all for this idea, though. There are enough really smart people who are all also in the world of AI and building AI that are nervous about the future of AI and wanting to put things into place to safeguard. So I'm willing to listen to them. This kind of stuff makes me both a little nervous about the future, but it also makes me happy that some people are concerned and, they have ideas. So I'm taking their advice.
All right, Qualcomm, back in the news again, but this is totally different, showed off a reference design for a VR headset using its Snapdragon 845 chip. The Snapdragon 845 extended with an X reality platform is meant for standalone VR and AR headsets. The chip can support sensors and cameras to provide 6 degrees of freedom movement controls and simultaneous localization and mapping, also known as SLAM. The 845 chip promises 30% faster graphics, 30% better power efficiency, and double the display throughout speed compared to the 835. It can handle 2K resolution per eve and foveated per eye. Every night per eye and foveated rendering, and that's also a word I had to look up earlier today.
Yeah, foveated rendering is that thing where it only renders what it can tell you're looking at,
yeah.
So it doesn't have to waste time rendering stuff you're never going to see.
Peripheral stuff that you're only getting little snippets of anyway.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of welcome to the club. I was looking the other day at just the breadth of, mostly mixed reality headsets now, but there are tons of them. I can get one at Dell. I can buy 3 or 4 of them based on Microsoft's platform. I can go check out whatever's going on with Oculus and the Rift, or the Vive rather, and then I can go down some really weird sort of Chinese manufacturer roads and find some stuff. I think this is good for VR. The more people get in, the better. And Qualcomm,
Hold on. Qualcomm's not getting into. A lot of those things you just mentioned are powered by Snapdragon 835s.
That's a good point.
This is Qualcomm saying, hey, we got a new one for you, and it's going to make things even better.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is the more that the industry, whoever that is, if they supply chips for them, great. If that's Qualcomm, if that's Intel, that's whoever. If they're GPU side, if they're optics side, whoever it is, the more we hear about it, that means the more work's being done, which means the closer we're getting to something that doesn't look like a giant box on your face. That's what I meant.
Well, especially with power efficiency, right? Because part of the standalone problem is power, is battery. Making that thing work without a cable is huge.
Need more cobalt.
You do. Everybody's going to need more cobalt soon. Do you think the patrons would mind if we took a little of our Patreon money and invested it in cobalt?
Let's buy a mine. Just buy it up. 13 years.
Yeah.
Hours.
Exactly. Okay. So Qualcomm's out there saying, like, we've got the chip to build your stuff. But Qualcomm isn't selling it super cheap. I mean, they strike deals with manufacturers. Here's a story that's the other end of the spectrum. The Next Web's Abhimanyu Gospal has a story about how 3 years ago, 13-year-old Sword Art Online fan, so this kid was a fan of the anime, said, I want to have a VR headset, but I cannot afford a VR headset. So Maxime Coutet of France decided to build one. Got a couple of his friends from school and his math teacher to help him. And now, 3 years later, he's 16 years old. He has open sourced his tech, both the software and the hardware, so that you can build your own VR headset, play Steam VR games. The 3D printed headset has a 5.5-inch 2560 by 1440 screen with 90-degree field of view, leap motion hand tracking, He developed his own software called Wormhole, WRMHL, to enable low latency communication between Unity 3D and Arduino. He created a piece of software called Fast VR to help developers add VR support more easily into their games. And he did this so that he could use low-powered components to fit into his $100 budget. He was sourcing parts from China. If you want to take a look at the project, you can find it on GitHub. It's called Relative, Relativ. We'll have a link to the next web story in the show notes if you want to look a little more about what he's doing. The other interesting thing about this story is there was a startup accelerator founder in France, kind of took him under his wing as a mentor, and he convinced Maxime not to start a business. He said, look, that's going to be a pain. I wish I hadn't when I was your age. Let me take you to Silicon Valley and show you. So he flew the kid to Silicon Valley, took him to Facebook. He met the project head of Oculus, and sort of had everybody tell him, like, yeah, at your age, just work on making stuff. Like, don't add the complexity of becoming an entrepreneur yet. Have fun and learn as much as you can. Then you can start the business later. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's like, don't get too good at this, sir.
Well, the Oculus guys, you're right.
We
I
have
guess
all
that
these
could.
departments, Qualcomm 845,
His mentor didn't have that conflict of interest, but that's a fair point. Yeah.
Right.
Well, look, if a school job, probably not that hard for him to get if somebody's looking for a really smart guy in VR. But I'm super impressed with this. His prototypes and stuff that you see in that article are, how do I put this? Cleaner, less tangled up, less of a mess than any of that early Oculus stuff. Now he has the benefit of, seeing how a lot of this stuff works, and he's using tools that weren't there before. In some cases, writing his own in other cases, but it's freaking impressive. And I love seeing this sort of thing. So my guess is, could be wrong, I think he's got a nice career ahead of him, whether he wants one or not.
Yeah, and it was all of these folks advising him, like, maybe don't start a company yet, you'll burn out, is what kind of moved him to do it open source. And now that he's open sourced it, and he convinced his friends and his math teacher to go along with it, he's realizing the benefits of the open source project. He's like, suddenly this thing is improving much faster than I ever could have improved it on my own. Because he's in a small town. I think it's Savins, Savins, but it's not a big area. So he would have had to work really hard, and not that he isn't working hard, but he would have had to add the hard work of learning how to run a business on top of this. Now he's got an open source project that at any point he can use to launch his own business because he has insight into it that nobody else has.
Not only that, you've got the future of VR is probably a lot like the current state of building your own computers. Like, we'd like to get to a place where we don't need to deal with a specific brand in their own little garden and only use the stuff they make. We're in a much more interesting place if we stay open source with this sort of thing. So I think he's already on track to be a part of that, maybe even spearhead it. So well done, 16-year-old.
Yeah.
You can't even vote yet, and you don't even live in the States.
They vote in France too.
Yeah,
they have a democracy there.
Yeah, that's true. They
He's
do.
so smart, even for living in France.
Even for France, I know, right?
Oh, you guys.
Patrick Baker, I love
that's
you.
mostly for Patrick. Take that back.
Yeah.
The U.S. Copyright Office is taking comments on a 2015 exemption that lets gamers and researchers circumvent copyright protection in order to play games that need internet authentication to work. Now, the exemption allows working around authentication, but does not allow recreation of the servers. So in other words, they want to be able to use this old stuff without actually creating the servers. Think World of Warcraft, think games that are persistent and online, and you got to authenticate to get in. And these would be games that are gone, like City of Heroes or many, many, many others I could list. The Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, or MADE, I love that, wants to expand the exemption to allow the preservation of not just local multiplayer and LAN games, but also games that require this centralized internet server kind of solution. As I mentioned before, the Entertainment Software Association argues against this, saying it would allow simulating proprietary code that was never meant to be made public. In other words, the museum or MADE says that they just want to preserve the games for study, and the ESA says BS to that. They don't think that's what they want. They think they want to use them for recreational play by the public. Copyright Office will make its recommendations in October, and I'm going to make a statement here that is going to surprise people. You'd think, oh, Scott, you're pro games, pro preservation, pro all that, and that's true, I am. But what they are essentially asking the makers of these now defunct server authentication-based games, they're asking them to give away the keys to how stuff is made. It's like if, imagine tomorrow, Netflix says we're canceling the service. It doesn't exist anymore. Thanks, everybody. It's been a great time. And then later people are like, well, we have the clients, but they can't connect to anything. So we need to make a whole Netflix full of movies and everything so we can all have Netflix again. I don't think you ever get a service-based portion of this industry to budge on that. Now, laws may change and they'll be forced to. I don't know. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. That's not to say that these things aren't worth study or worthy of study, but you're also talking about products and kinds of products where the companies who own them, who created them, who made them and marketed them and then pulled them, have every right in the world to later reintroduce them as remastered, or we're going to start it over, or we're going to, do something new, but we're going to use the same code base. I don't think you can reasonably ask them to just give all that stuff up and say it's for the good of study.
Well, hold on. The museum isn't asking them to give all that stuff up. They're not asking them to give up the right or the copyright on their material. Yeah. They're saying, let us circumvent copyright protections that prevent us from studying these games. That's all they want.
That's all they want. That's all they're saying.
And what the ESA is saying is, sure, you say that, but we don't believe you. And if we give you the right to study it, then you're going to use it for other things. And to me, it's pretty clear cut. Copyright protection laws are over strong. These exemptions are meant to correct for that. And this is an area that needs correction. You can't study an old game without the company's permission. That's a clear effect on the public good. So give an exemption for study and make sure the exemption says, hey, if you start, giving this to the public, then that's too much.
Yeah, but it's a little like saying we need to study your world famous steak salad you make at some restaurant. And they're like, well, to do that, you're going to need our recipe. And to do that, you're going to have our secrets.
They're not asking for the recipe. They're not asking for the game companies to do anything. They're saying we can circumvent this on our own, but it's illegal. Please make it legal for the purpose of study.
But I would disagree with you because that's what they're doing. By giving them access to this stuff.
It's not giving access. They already have the access. It's just illegal for them to use it.
All right. So giving them legal access to it means they now can legally backwards, or what's the word? Reverse engineer net code and all.
They could already do that.
I know.
They're just saying make it legal for us to study it. It's stuff we can already do. Just make it legal for us to actually use it for academic purposes and limit it to academic purposes.
I also think it's a real gray area for the ESA to say, well, you're either studying it or you're just playing for fun. There's so much crossover there. It's like saying, if you go to a library and just read a book, you're not learning anything. You're just, just checking out for, it's like, well, no, they're not mutually exclusive. I don't think you could argue that everyone's going to, do one or the other. Recreational use is studying on some level, at least for some people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course it is. The only last thing I'd say about this is if something like City of Heroes is the exact example we're talking about, nobody has that source code. Nobody has that server code. Nobody has that net code. So whoever owns that still isn't just going to let somebody have it to study it, because studying it means also knowing enough about it to then use it to build other people to build from it, to use trade secrets. They're not going to. Why would they ever want?
They're not asking for trade secrets. That's all I'll say.
They're not asking for it.
They're saying we already can do this. You aren't protecting anything except the ability to punish us for studying, for doing academic studies.
Then, if in that case, then there's nothing to study because they don't give away the software. There's
plenty to study. There's plenty to show and show in a museum. This is how it worked. You can show old books. You can show old movies in museums. Why can't you show old games? Because they make it illegal for you to run them.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand the ESA's point. I think that they've got a point, and I think it's going to be hard. They're going to be hard pressed to not.
I think what I love most is that Scott and I just had an argument.
We totally did. And what's funny is we are seemingly on the opposite side. We're usually on the opposite side of this issue. I am pro, get it out there. Everybody should have ROMs. Let's do it. Preserve video games. I don't know about the server stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, if you have thoughts on this, email us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. And if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com, which is available also as a flash briefing on the Amazon Echo, on Google Home, and in the Anchor app. What is our thing of the day, Sarah?
Glad you asked, Tom. So anybody who travels, goes to airports, knows that you got to keep your bags within sight, right? You don't want anybody walking off with them. You don't want anybody leaving their bag anywhere. But there is a limit to this, and the amateur traveler will explain more.
Yes, he will, as soon as I get his file ready. Yeah. No.
It's because you were so mad at Scott. You kind of
I know, and I forgot to get it queued up. It is exactly why. Well, I wasn't mad. I was just into it. So take it away, Chris. Please. Anytime now. There you go.
Come
This
on,
is Chris
Mr.
Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. So an interesting story through Travel and Leisure magazine from the Shanghaiist about one woman at Dongguan East Railway Station in China who took the admonition that you should be very careful at security to make sure you keep an eye on your bags a little too seriously, perhaps. She wouldn't let go of her bag to put it through the x-ray machine because apparently she had a fair amount of cash in it. And so she hung onto her bag and went through the x-ray machine. Now, I don't recommend doing that, but the interesting part and the technology angle of this is how bad is that? Apparently, the x-rays in the security things have about 1/10 of a day's worth of natural background radiation. You probably won't get cancer immediately from doing that once. I still don't recommend it because apparently it's fairly easy to get stuck. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Well, I'm glad I got that to play because that is the weirdest thing I've heard in a long time.
Can't you? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can't. You couldn't just stuff the cash in your pockets because you got to take everything out of your pocket. So
I'm sorry, but I don't think you should allow her to go through there. I'm wondering how she actually got through.
I'm
I'm curious. I'm a little skeptical about the veracity of this story, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, the next time I go through TSA, I'm just gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna keep my bag with me because I got an iPhone in here and some cash.
Yeah,
and I just
right.
don't want it to. Although I will say, yes, it sounds like she took it a little bit too far, but when I do go through TSA, which is quite often, and I got expensive podcasting equipment and the whole thing, it's like I'm always in a panic until everything is back in my hand on the other side because when your bags are ahead of you,
Oh, yeah.
you just think like, somebody could walk off with my MacBook. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah,
I think. Oh, sorry, Scott.
I've had somebody walk off with my stuff before, not intentionally.
Oh,
and
man.
they felt bad after, and the bags were similar, and so it can happen. I don't think anyone's trying to be nefarious, but I cannot stand getting behind people. It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm over here talking to a dude, put my arms up, and my bag is going that way, and that's not a great feeling.
Hey, thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Real quick check on the mailbag, Sarah.
Stephen wrote in and said, I just wanted to include in the discussion of possibly not needing an ad blocker with Chrome's new blocking. I use uBlock Origin for its ability to protect against malvertising. I love that term. Also, the developer has already added blocking of the CoinHive Monero-related background cryptocurrency mining, which we've talked about in a previous show as well.
Yeah, they just found some cryptocurrency mining was happening on an unprotected Amazon web server instance from Tesla. They've shut that down. But yeah, the crypto advertising thing is crazy. And I have never used it myself, but uBlock Origin has some pretty wide-ranging good recommendations from people. So thank you, Stephen, for letting us know about that.
And thank you to Scott Johnson, who I learned today is 6'4", because we've actually never met in person. I just feel like I hang out with you so much. I was like, have we not met in person? I just didn't know you were that tall. Besides your height, what else is going on?
Well, I thought you were much tall. No, I didn't. It's everybody. Listen, we're all one big happy human family.
That's right.
We're all really different.
All shapes and sizes.
There's
Spice
a lot
of life.
going on, a lot of cool stuff. If you would like to follow my things, you can do that at frogpants.com. All the podcasts are there, the video stuff I do, all that stuff's there. And if you are interested in seeing what I have to say on social media, you can follow me at Scott Johnson on Twitter.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks to everybody who supports this show. We are making some progress, but we need your help to make sure that we get to one more patron than last month. Yesterday, we needed 19. Today, we've gotten 3 more. So just need you to take a moment, go to your computer, patreon.com/DTNS. $1 a month. You'll never even miss it, and it helps us out quite a bit. So please, if you haven't already, back us. And if you have, thank you for backing us at patreon.com/DTNS.
If you have anything you want to talk to us about, questions, comments, the works, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Could have left that second email in, I guess. We had 45 more seconds to play with.
Us, 159.
Boom.
That's rare.
I know. It's good though. It's good. We had a good discussion, Scott.
It was great.
We could probably have more on that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
I
so
was
funny,
leaving
depending on-
out any conciliation to your points for time because you were making your points really well, and it's like, yeah, ESA does have a point. You were right.
Yeah, I think they'll fight that one till they can't, and maybe they won't, but maybe.
But
they won't.
I do think there needs to be an exemption. I don't think any association, any company should be able to say like something that old, right? This is all built on a much more complicated series of thoughts on my end than we had time to get into. But first of all, copyright is too long. And one of the mitigations against that being so long are these exemptions. And one of the things is, hey, when a game is now 20 years old, it is rife for study. It's historical preservation. If I want to put, say, an online, let's say World of Warcraft, right? I know they make vanilla servers, but I want to have a pure instance of World of Warcraft that you can play in a museum, available for academic study, for people to write papers on, which maybe that sounds silly to you, but people thought it was silly to study movies, back in the early part of the 20th century. It is part of our cultural history, and you need to be able to do that. I shouldn't be breaking the law as a historian to make that happen so I can show how it happened, any more than like reconstructing a model of a pyramid shouldn't put me in violation of Egyptian copyrights and trade secrets, right? You need to have a limited exemption there, and it doesn't have. And what I was trying to go on your proprietary code thing is this isn't. They don't want to distribute code, and they already know how to do it. So you're not like saying give them help or give them something. You're saying carve out a limited exemption that says in these cases you can do this. Where that line is drawn is up for a lot of debate.
Yeah, and you threw a couple interesting wrinkles in it. There's questions like, okay, well, what is the time frame? Like 20 years ago, there were no online servers to study, so that authentication layer wasn't there. So those, we're not even there yet. So what's that time? I don't know what that time is. Yeah. On the other hand, if you get to a place where it is 20 years later, well, it makes sense to me. But in the case of the WoW example, they still make a game based on a lot of that code base. And so for them to come in and say, well, World of Warcraft is now 15 years old or whatever the time is, so that's now open for us to study that initial code. Well, what are we talking about? 1.0 code? Are we talking about any of the patches?
Yeah, let's say we're talking about 1.0 code. I mean, it is a more complex example. You can find examples of code like City of Heroes that's just gone, right? That's just not being used. And I get, to your side of the argument, I get where companies say, well, look, we still own that code, we still own that copyright, and we want the right to decide, like maybe we're going to want to put out nostalgia servers, right? And we don't want a museum undermining the marketplace for that. That is an absolutely fair argument. So carve out the exemption in a way that doesn't undermine that.
Yeah, if that's possible, because they'll still be running a game based on the same code, a lot of it. It hasn't changed that much since WoW launched.
Well, and a lot of the argument has to do with the museum is asking for an overbroad exemption. They're saying we want to make it available online to affiliate researchers. And there's some argument to say, well, now hold on. This is really starting to feel like a slippery slope. But if I think it would be absolutely fair to say, okay, you can make it available in a room and it can't be accessible outside that room. And I think it should be broader than that. But if you start there, like, how can you object to that?
Yeah, there's probably a happy place there. I just think it gets so much more complicated when there's suddenly a server between. When it's Mario Kart, who cares? But then again, you have modern Mario Kart that's running on servers and multiplayer servers. So one day we'll have the same conversation about Mario Kart.
Exactly, right.
Do that. So yeah, I don't know.
All right.
It'll be inevitable.
So Scott and Tom had an argument.
That's a terrible title.
Sick of Ubering. Sick of Ubering, try walking. Apple's Cobalt Blues.
What's our title? I need the title. What's the one? What's the best one?
So hold on. I just found it. Give me a minute. It was right here.
No,
I know.
just read them all, Roger.
No, the wheels on the Uber pool go round and round.
Oh,
That's pretty cute.
that's cute. I like that.
I like it. Or Apple's Cobalt Blues.
Oh, that's clever too.
But they're not really blue. It's
They've
clever.
got the blues because they might not get enough cobalt. And
And
cobalt,
cobalt is blue.
blue.
It's actually, I like the color cobalt blue.
We used Apple in the headline yesterday, though, didn't
The
we?
wheels on the Uber pool go round and round.
All right.
Goes round.
Done.
Done.
I do like Zoe Brings Bacon's suggestion. Know a good ethicist? And the answer is no. If any of you are ethicists, I want to hear from you. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
No, a good
Just
ethicist
tell me what
is
you
shorter.
do all day, you know? Yes.
Can we do know a good ethicist, Roger?
Okay.
It's just snappy.
I like it.
Power. Well,
Couple lawyers.
not that we need to go on and on about it, but it sounds
In my
like
head, I was worried that Roger would be mad that I wanted to change the title.
Even
and
though
you
just wanted to pick a
and-
title.
Exactly. And that we picked your title and you went, ooh, power. And in my head, it was like, wow, Sarah, like really
drunk
gloating
on
about that.
power. I can always choose the title. No,
I'm completely aware of what's happening, Tom. I just choose to.
I
Roger
know.
does
Why-
he's marching to the beat of his own drum. I believe is the term. But
I think
no, what I was
Roger
going to say-
Roger is probably just saying no drums.
Yeah, no drums. Too much. No, besides my stupid, I don't know.
You know
outlet
what?
issue
Your
before
cord
the show.
worked. Your cord worked.
I know. I noticed it because nobody stuttered for me either, which sometimes
Aha.
happens, and I'm like, am I stuttering for them, or is it just one of the other?
So it was the Ethernet port.
It
Had
did sound
to
like
have
a weirdly mechanical thing because it never felt random when it would happen. It would go, yeah, and then you'd be back and totally normal, and then and like it wasn't like a weird mix. It was like one thing it did and one thing only. When I heard it.
Well, all right. So now this is the fun part. So I've got a 100-foot black Ethernet cable. So too long and too black. So now I need to get a slightly shorter, or I don't know.
You get a 25-footer or a 50-footer.
I think more than 25 because my camera ones are 25.
You can just
okay,
coil
so
it
you-
up under your desk.
It's true. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean,
Well,
It's
if
always
you
good
get
to
some
have a
point-
little
at
extra
some
just in
point.
case.
but I do think it needs to be white because if it's white,
yeah.
you won't even see it down at the bottom.
That's
you know,
true.
because everything else is white. So
I hear you.
So I considered thinking, okay, well, what if I move my modem and my router into the studio? Because I mean, what else do I got? Like my Apple TV, it's like that's Wi-Fi anyway. But then it's just going to be another problem over there.
Yeah. No, I
You
wouldn't
know?
change too many other variables right now. Now that you got it figured out.
Well, good. So yeah, it's just a little window dressing, but
Yeah.
hopefully we've cracked the code. And also to everybody who emailed with like suggestions or like, hey, something seems a little bit off. Thank you, and hopefully smooth sailing from here.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Smooth.
Whoa, smooth. Well, now, Scott. Wait, no. Sarah, what were you talking about right before the show began? Oh, a labs idea.
Yeah, well, okay. So it's not super fleshed out. And in fact, even if I fleshed it out, there's not a whole lot to it. But we do get a fair amount of suggestions from people saying like, hey, it'd be nice to see everybody's setup, kind of go through how things are connected and kind of just how we all do this show, because, behind the scenes, because otherwise we're all just sitting here, hopefully, with good connections. So I thought, all right, well, for example, on like a headline day, headlines are not, there's no video involved, right? And that's a good thing. But is that something that somebody would want to be able to like almost like check in on, like almost like drop cam style? Or is it just going to be someone sitting at a computer not being very interesting until you actually get in front of the microphone? I don't know. I'm kind of just thinking like, is there some
Like what
added
else?
value
Yeah.
to all of the stuff that we're doing all day, because it's obviously time and energy intensive, that our community would enjoy kind of seeing a little bit more of?
Yeah, and there's this new Patreon thing called Lens, where you can do Snapchat style videos that only go to the patrons.
Okay.
Of course, that requires us. We only have one account to log in. And I told Patreon yesterday again, like, please, multiple accounts. I'm running a campaign. They know. It's on their list.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you could do for stuff like that. You could just, you could do little short videos and stuff. But yeah, I don't do video of Daily Tech Headlines particularly because I do video of so many other things that I don't want to complicate it more. But what you're talking about isn't like producing, right? It's more like,
it's more of like,
behind the scenes.
Like if you want to check in, it's like a cube cam, 2.0 or whatever 0.0. But I don't know, I don't know. I just thinking of stuff where it's like, hey, if we're already doing this and people, some of the DTNS community is like, yeah, I like that behind the scenes stuff. It's like, we're not, besides Patreon, and yes, we have our social media accounts and we can ramp all that stuff, but is there some, I don't know, video feed that would be kind of fun for people to have access to?
Well, I think what we should do is put a webcam on your desk and call it the Sarah Cam and put it on a web page on the site,
that.
And it'll be consistently the #1 web page on techtv.com.
Well, see, that's the thing is like, I don't necessarily want that, but
No,
it's like, I know that some people like that sort of thing. It's like, again, this idea is not super fleshed out.
What if it was variable? What if it was a series of behind the scenes video in that style, but it wasn't all every day, right? Because what I'm thinking is like maybe the novelty wears off for headlines after a while, and you're like, I just want better audio version of the headlines. Can you just give me a real produced video version of the headlines? So what if you like, oh, here's how I do headlines today, and you can talk to it a little before, et cetera, and do the headlines. Then the next day it's like, oh, here's me preparing the rundown, or here's me setting up my cameras. Like we could do like a different one every month, maybe.
Do we? And I know you said headlines aren't video in part just because you're trying to focus on all the stuff you have to focus on already. Do we like the idea of there being a video version if the bandwidth worked? I mean personal bandwidth, not internet bandwidth.
I don't think it benefits much from that. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are like, I like listening on YouTube. That would be fun. I'm just not sure that a regular video version of headlines... Put it this way. I'm willing to be convinced otherwise, but... Sure,
yeah. Well, I think that...
I don't want to have to do it.
It's right. Well, and that's right. Exactly. I'm like, then I got to shower so early in the morning. My gosh.
Yeah.
But I know that, especially all our time at Twit, it's like, even if people really only listen to the audio, it's like, it is a nice option, right? Because you are going to have people who are like, but I like video,
That's why we do video version of Daily Tech News Show.
Sure.
And it, as we have noticed, triples or more the complexity of it.
Yeah. Well, and also, so when I did headlines is not exactly like Crunch Report, which is a show I used to do at TechCrunch.
Right.
But they're similar, right? Kind of running through some stories, big stories of the day. Mm-hmm. And that, doing that video, which is just me talking to the camera, that part of it isn't hard, but there's so much B-roll that gets added in, so you're not just looking at me the whole time. It's like you actually want to see me as little as possible, and we're showing websites and video and blah blah blah. And so it's like, none of us in the group as it stands now has the time to do that. So I'm not exactly sure how it would get executed in a way where we'd be like, yeah, we're really proud of this. The video makes sense. It would be more of just like a talking head. Or maybe I could just become super good at editing.
Editing the show?
The more I talk through this, the more I'm like, what are you, Sarah, quit it. No, we're not. Let's just keep it as is.
I like the like regular behind the scenes videos though.
Yeah.
Because they're one-offs in series, so you never get tired of either watching or doing the thing because it's always something different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I also like, just the, I don't know. I mean, the kind of like drop cam or whatever aspect of something that you can kind of check on all the time.
Yeah.
I like that, but it's like, I just worry that because it's like, this isn't, an office. It's like, I live here and I'm just going to forget and I'm going to walk through the room in my underwear and it's just going to be a whole thing.
No, exactly. I have a drop cam down here that I could easily set up and be like, oh, it's the studio drop cam. But then, yes, one day I'm going to walk down here and, not fully dressed or start singing a stupid song or something, which people are like, that's great. Please do that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know
that
that,
wouldn't work for me.
to mention Twit again, it's like, I remember at a certain point, it was like, we turned off the audio on all the drop cams because it was like, wait a second, like people have to have private conversations. Like, even if we know we're live most of the time, it's like, it's too much because this is like a place of business and, there's certain things that you just don't want people to hear. But again, I'm not walking around in my underwear when I go to the office with my peers here.
Generally, no.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do, but I also get in trouble for that.
Yeah, you get reprimanded and written up. Trust me.
But in the home office, it's like the cats are just like, whatever. They don't care. Well, good times. I don't know. I'll keep my thinking cap on about all this stuff. Just trying to add value, add new benefits to folks, things that they want and things that we can realistically deliver. So again, anybody listening, if you've got ideas, something I haven't mentioned, or you like an idea or whatever, feedback at Daily Tech News Show or Slack. You can Slack me.
Ba-ding.
216. Oh, Tom, you're going to love this. I realized that when I moved everything over to the power strip, I did not move my MacBook power, and I'm at 16%.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Always plug in.
Well, ever since you berated me, I was like, I will plug in because, the day that my power goes out during the show is not a day that I want to live. But I just didn't realize that it wasn't plugged in.
There are certain principles by which I live. That is one of them.
Well, that's very you. And I'm kind of like, but I have 16%. Like, let's just wait till it
Come
gets
on,
to 3.
it's going to be fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, I have, 3 months to do my taxes, but I'll wait till April 9th.
Oh, yeah. I've almost got my taxes done.
I don't actually wait that long because historically, the last couple of years, I've gotten a decent return and I want it. This year is going to be the opposite. The freelance life, man, it catches up with you.
It can.
It can.
It can at that.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about, well, everyone knows. There are pluses and minuses to all sorts of things. But, yeah, it requires you to be a big kid and, plan for the future.
So I shut off the Twitch stream already because audio stopped working for some reason, and I can't figure out why.
On that note, I will stop the YouTube stream.
Okay.
Last words from anyone?
It's been really fun knowing everybody, and I look forward to knowing you more tomorrow.
Thanks, YouTube.
See
Thank
you guys
Easter Bunny.
Thanks, YouTubers.
tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Walk.